get ready for some upbeat banter, plenty of laughs, and a whole lot of love for the game and our team. This is Buds and Blue Jays. And now your hosts, Riley McConnell and Jesse Burrell.
Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, September 2nd, and happy Labor Day to everybody listening. And welcome to episode 208 of Buds and Blue Jays. It's your place for all things related to the Toronto Blue Jays. Jesse 1 and Jesse 2 here at it again. Jesse Burrell joined by Jesse Turiso. And today on the show, the Blue Jays, man, what a team we have here. They went hot with the sticks. They went cold with the sticks. And then they had the blowpen show up again in Game 3, ultimately losing 2 out of the 3 games to the Minnesota Twins. We'll react to all of that, including what was a very youthful lineup for the Toronto Blue Jays in Game 3, a franchise best 15-0 shutout in Game 2, and so much more. Plus, we have thoughts about our bullpen. We celebrate our September call-ups and so much more in this episode. But Jesse, while we get into it here, last episode we talked, hey, maybe, just maybe, if we can go into Minnesota, sweep the Minnesota Twins, we're 4.5 games out of the wild card, and maybe our thin chances at a playoffs are still alive, but losing 2 out of 3 against the team we're chasing, if it wasn't already dead, the Blue Jays playoff hopes officially over, right?
I definitely say it took a major hit. Until I see that E beside our team name, I'm not saying it's done.
Yeah, as long as you're saying there's a chance, eh?
Exactly. Like I said before, I'm using that Dumber and Dumber quote. So you're saying there's a chance. And literally, until we have the E by our name, and we're all really only 6 games back, if I'm 6.5, we could go on one of those, like a September run, but as a J-Temp, make it a September to remember. So you never know. We've seen teams in the past go on those huge runs.
Sure. The playoff odds have dipped back down to 0.1%, so it's a drop down again dramatically. But I am wearing my Troy Tulowitzki Rockies jersey, and if you remember that 2007 team, I think they went 13-14 down the stretch, snuck into the final wildcard game, won the play-in game against San Diego, and went all the way to the World Series. So that's what the path will look like for the Toronto Blue Jays. But let's be honest here. Playoffs are not in our future for this team, and if you're listening at this point, we've known that for quite a while. But I do want to give a little bit of grain of positive because the month of August just ended for our Toronto Blue Jays team, and we went 16-12 over the course of that month, which is the best record by month for the Toronto Blue Jays, which is wild because at the end of July, we traded about 8 or 9 players. We brought in all these young players. We got a movement in. Jesse, what are you taking away from the Blue Jays actually having a winning record in the month of August on the backs of all these young players?
As I've been saying all year, and it feels good that they're showing it, let the kids play, and they're showing that they can bring the energy and compete and actually become workhorses and battle and use their IQ and use their versatility for success. Where with the older players we had, like Turner, Vogelback, and all them, they weren't so versatile and pretty much dead spot in the lineup where we could put, say, Barger up to the 5 spot or Wagner in the 2nd spot. Where we had the older guys, they were more stuck in one spot, and taking a mass from these kids who have more energy can go first to home on doubles. They're just showing what youth can do in the baseball world now with how fast the game is.
Yeah, when you get a team full of these younger players, that's how usually you get a group of guys to come up and are able to surprise a little bit. Like Will Wagner coming up and hitting 370 or whatever he's hitting now has been an absolute boost. Kevin Kiermaier was never going to hit 370. Justin Turner was probably a league average bat at best, and he was never going to do this. But you get these young guys who have this unproven potential, and you have a chance to really go out and soar. And that's what I think we've been seeing from the Toronto Blue Jays, which maybe falsely gives me some hope that we can actually go out and compete in the 2025 season. Because if you go 16-12 every month, I don't have math on that, but I believe you're, 20 games up over 500, which you're well into playoff position going into the year. So maybe, just maybe, this month of August could give us some hope into the future for the Toronto Blue Jays. But Jesse, with that being said, Let's dive into the games here. Game 1, the Blue Jays lose 4-0. Pablo Lopez was absolutely dealing. The Blue Jays only mustered, I believe it was 4 hits in the course of the game. They were shut out or had 2 runs or less. I think it was 5 or 6 games at that point. Then the Blue Jays exploded against a rookie pitcher. We scored 7 runs in the first. We exploded for 15 runs. The 15-0 shutout we got in Game 2 was the greatest individual shutout mark in Blue Jays history, and the hit differential between the two teams was the best in franchise history as well. And then in Game 3, Jesse, we saw the kids lineup come out, and it looked real good until Chad Green threw a pitch, which I've never seen more middle in my life, for the home run he gave to Royce Lewis. And ultimately, they shut the door there, and the Blue Jays lose the series 2-1. But a lot of interesting talking points, some great starting pitching performances, some great stuff on the offensive side too. Jesse, let's give me your player of the series in Minnesota.
Well, I definitely have to give it to the man I'm calling Will the Thrill, is Will Wagner. Like, that game, and just even because of the second game in the series, like, he made him the player of the series. Being 5 for 6 and only a triple away from a cycle in that game, and which, like, it's just showing, like, he was going the other way. He was pulling balls. He was using all fields to get his hits. And I think one of the funnier things was after the game when he was talking to Arden Spelling. There's Milo Hale chirping him, saying, "You're a hit away from the cycle. What is this?" And I'm like, I thought it was hilarious. Just in the interview, even the coach was like showing that even the coaches, like the Milo Hale, are having good times with these kids and all that, and like chirping them and all that. But yeah, Will Wagner, and he was playing some great defense too. Like that snag when he went in at first. After they took Vladdy, I was like, okay, well, like, this is almost like what we wanted Kevin Biggio to be, but way better.
Yeah, Will Wagner, his first big league appearance at first base too, and he makes a great play. Like, you know how you go into a field in a unique position, the ball always seems to find you. Will Wagner did that, and it got it at first base, and he looked like he belonged, right? And as he has all year, he's looked like his belong. He's got 20 hits now in his 58 at-bats, 354, his second home run in this series. He becomes the first Blue Jays rookie to have 5 hits in a game, which quite impressive, honestly, if you ask me. And look, in the series as a whole, 6 for 12. Anytime you hit 500 in a series, including a 419-foot home run that, I don't know, when you saw this in Game 2, I literally screamed, wow, when that ball left the bat off Will Wagner. Like, I stopped what I was doing because I was so impressed by his swing and the distance he was able to put on that. I don't know if he's going to be an everyday regular next year. He still struggles facing left-handed pitching, but he's absolutely locked himself into a spot, at least on the bench, going into next year's Toronto Blue Jays team, right?
Oh, definitely. And like you said, when he hit that homer, I was just like, that's gone. Like, literally, I was eating there with my family. I was like, and that ball is gone. And of course, my wife gets mad about that, but that's just she deals with enough of that.
Hey, that's why she married you, right? When you marry a Blue Jays fan, you got to deal with sometimes that a little bit. So shout out to Ashley there on the call, who's deep down inside, we know she's excited about Will Wagner hitting home runs as well. My player of the series, Jesse. Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying, definitely she is. And even my daughter is even now, as she called it, brainwashed to loving baseball on the TV over like her cartoons. So I've done my job.
You're raising them right, my guy. You're raising them right. My player of the series, and we're going to go to one of the new guys we haven't seen much, is Nathan Lucas, who in this series, 5 for 11, 2 RBIs. He did walk 3 times as well in Game 3 when he got put up into the leadoff spot. We know the Nathan Lucas story. He should have been up all year, but a broken hand has really come down. But all this guy has done since entering the Blue Jays system is just hit, and hit. And he did it again here in this series. I don't know what the future holds for Nathan Lucas, but there is a very interesting ball player here. Good contact throwing. He went all around. He seems to have good plate discipline too, going well. And he can run into one on top of playing a very good outfield defense. The Blue Jays outfield picture, very crowded as it is. And Nathan Lucas just adds to that range. But as of now, I think he's one of these guys now. You've got to put in the lineup every day. You've got to see what you have in this guy because he's got nothing else to prove down in the minor league. So shout out to you, Nathan Lucas.
Oh, definitely. And coming back from that torn thumb ligament where his ligament literally was off the bone, they were saying, and he can just close the glove, and that's all he can do with that thumb right now. And how he was saying too is freaking crazy. And definitely the wildest triple I ever seen. How that how it
top
happened.
of the wall.
I was like off one wall, then off another, that falls down. I'm like, it almost looked like a scene from a '90s movie called Angels in the Outfield, where one of the things the angel is using it as a hacky sack and making the ball dance around everywhere. It was the weirdest thing I ever.
You couldn't even do that if you tried. That's how impressive Nathan Lucas has been this year.
No, exactly, and even some of the catches he's made in that series too I'm like, okay. And I believe I think they were saying too in the broadcast, if it wasn't because he was a lefty, he would have been on the lineup from opening day, and that's crazy to think. Oh, so do I. And thinking of who we had at the beginning of the season, it's he could have done way more than.
Okay, go ahead.
I was saying that he could have done way more than some of the other Jays that made the roster that for early camp.
Absolutely. I want you to rank these Blue Jays outfielders and which ones you think are going to be the most productive in the course of their career. And that's Nathan Lucas, Joey Loperfido, Alan Rodin, and Davis Schneider. Rank those four.
I'm going to say Loperfido 1 because he's already there and he's gained the experience. So I'm using that as a factor. I feel like Alan Rodin will be actually number 2. Based off of what he's already done in AAA, AA. Once he figures it out, he tears it up. Kind of similar to how Barger was when he was coming up through the system. And then I would put Lucas 3. Slow, I would have put him higher, but slowly because he's already 30 years old and just 30, now making it.
The problem, yeah. So
that's as even though I'm older than him, I'm in the baseball now. That's kind of deterring people GMs now to sign a 30-year-old outfielder. If he was playing corner infield, it'd be a little bit different. Then I'll have Schneider at the bottom just because I feel like them he couldn't even couldn't get a hit off of a position player in game 2. You can't get much work. I'm sorry to rip on him, but he's lost and he should have been in AAA finding himself.
Okay, let's talk about some other Blue Jays hitters then in this series, and we might as well start with Davis Schneider because not only did he hit into a double play against a position player pitching, a guy who probably needed a hit more than anyone else. His other 3 at-bats he had this series, strikeout, strikeout, strikeout. It's getting to the point where it's man, Davis Schneider, I missed the Babe Sanity run that you went on, but you were fantastic. I'll always remember your walk-off home run you had in the 14th inning against the Pirates this year. But he is so lost right now. We've talked several times about sending him down and whatnot, but the Buffalo season is almost over, to be honest, and he's just going to ride out the rest of the season on the Major League bench. And what we do with Davis Schneider going into the offseason into next year is going to be a fascinating conversation, but he is unplayable at this moment.
No, exactly. And it almost feels like he has to do what Ernie Clement did this year. Has to beat out pretty much everyone and make someone be traded away to maybe earn a spot.
Yeah, and with the depth option these teams have, that seems hard to do. Will Wagner's moved past him on the depth chart. Those 3 outfielders have probably all moved past him on the depth chart. Davis Schneider is getting buried pretty quickly here.
No, exactly. And there's even Jimenez. You have Ernie Clement. You have Horwitz. You have even Latigo in AAA and a bunch of other players. You have McAdoo coming up. You have even Jay Harry. If maybe he just needed a change of scenery and even in the depths of single A too. There's a bunch of players that could surprise and possibly pass him quicker than we could have imagined after last year.
Yeah, Davis Schneider going into spring training next year is going to be one of the most important players or pieces to watch, assuming he's not let go or moved or something this offseason, but we will touch on that this offseason. On the offensive side of the ball, Jesse, the Blue Jays, they scored 15 runs in a game. They had some other notable performances. So I'm going to give you 3 here, and I want you to pick who you want to talk about out of those 3. In this series, Spencer Horwitz, 5 for 13. He hit a home run. It was his 9th of the season, 3 RBIs. He had a walk and 2 strikeouts. Addison Barger hit another home run, his 6th of the season, 3 for 12 all told, with 2 RBIs, a walk, and a strikeout for Addison Barger. And Ernie Clement had a home run in this series as well. He went 2 for 9 with his 11th home run of the series. He had been dealing with a little bit of ankle injury, and he also came in and pinch hit and hit left-handed against a position player pitching, trying to do the Anthony Rendon thing for Ernie Clement. So out of those 3 players, you can add Dalton Varsho in there, who also hit a home run, his 17th of the series. Who do you want to talk about that impressive?
Mine definitely talk about Addison Barger there. He again, I said last episode, if he figures it out, he could turn into an MVP candidate, just with his swings, his defense. Even it showed his intelligence with that play with Leo Jimenez, where he tried to gun out Austin Martin at home. I don't know many I don't even think many veterans really even think like that, to just try to grab the ball and get it to Holmes to save a run, even though it was all reversed anyways. But showing that IQ, and just even when he hit that homer in game 2, like I said with Wagner, I was just like, yep, that ball's crushed. It's out of here. And just seeing that arm strength too, if he isn't on the roster in some sort next year, or the Jays trade him away, I feel like that's going to be almost as bad at in the style of Chris Carpenter, where you had a prospect leaves, wins a Cy Young. I feel like Barger goes to a team, gets the regular playing time, like we've been saying, could be one of the top third basemen or even right fielders in the MLB come the future.
Yeah, I want to make that clear right now for where we stand on Addison Barger, because there's a lot of buzz, because people on the internet are, they're doing a lot of wild things on the internet, but people online are looking at this Blue Jays team. We're seeing a lot of the depth pieces we have here, and they're thinking, hey, maybe we can trade one. I've heard Ben Nicholson-Smith and Arden Swelling suggest this as well. I think it is absolutely ridiculous if you go out and try to trade Addison Barger this season or this offseason. If you're going to get a Trevor Richards type bullpen arm, not a chance in hell. You absolutely need to see what you have with Addison Barger. Most rookies across Major League Baseball struggle a little bit in their first thing. Jackson Merrill was just kind of map player this year. He's going to go win National League MVP. Jackson Churio was just okay, who's gone on to have a monster season. Very few guys are Corbin Carroll or Paul Skeens who just show up and hit the ground running. Addison Barger struggled a lot early in the year, right? I think he had a 1 for 22 stretch to begin his career or something like that. But since that Cubs series, Addison Barger sitting 263, 295, 544 slugging. He's got an 836 OPS, 4 home runs, 4 doubles. He got 3 walks to go along with that as well. Addison Barger, who had top prospect pedigree and has all the tools in the world to go along with the baseball IQ that you mentioned earlier in this thing. Addison Barger is a legit guy. And I think he should be probably in right field over George Springer more days than not. Platoon him with Springer if you want going into next year. But Addison Barger needs to be a core piece of this team going forward. And I think it's absolutely ridiculous if the Blue Jays try to trade him.
Oh, I agree. And I remember talking to you about this, just when we were hanging out and that, saying who do we after Bo and Vladdy? Who is our core? Who do we build around if both of them are gone? And I feel right now Barger's showing that he is an integral part of that future core or future window. Maybe it's Horwitz, maybe it's Wagner, even Perfino. Those ones are still up in the air, but Barger is showing that this is a guy you build around. He's the guy.
Good. We are officially Barger boys over here. We're the Buds and Blue Jays Barger boys. That's say that 10 times fast. And see how that gets for you. But very notable stuff, very good things. I'm excited to see what Addison Barger does for this last half of the season, because he might slowly becoming one of my favorite players. We will see how that goes. Quick note on Dalton Varsho, 2 for 8, did strike out 3 times. He's been dealing with his sore shoulder, which how can you blame him with how many times we've seen Dalton Varsho run into walls this season? He didn't play in the finale in Game 3. John Schneider did say that Dalton Varsho was going to see a little bit more time off here as we get down the stretch. And obviously, as the Blue Jays aren't playing for much, Dalton Varsho, one of the quote-unquote more veterans on this team, we know what to have from him. We might see him just sit a little more, which means we get to see the young guys play a little bit more. And speaking of those young guys, Leo Jimenez, who we talked about his great defensive play that he made in that series, he also swung it with the bat pretty good. 4 for 9 for Leo Jimenez in this series, 3 RBIs as well. 2 walks, 2 strikeouts in here. He's looked quietly pretty good. He shows he can play a competent shortstop defense, and another one of these guys that you can just kind of throw into the clump of Blue Jays minor league hits here and all these guys. And I want to talk to, while we're on the topic of the youth movement the Toronto Blue Jays have been going through here, that lineup in Game 3, Jesse, the young guy lineup, they were throwing around a ton of stats pregame. We tweeted out a bunch of stats postgame. But the Blue Jays had said that this was one of the youngest lineups the Blue Jays have ever had in team history. I think I looked this up. Their combined total of 2,912 plate appearances is the lowest in franchise history, I believe it was. Maybe since 77, maybe since their opening season. And I want to play a fun game, Jesse, using that number, that 2912, okay? I'm going to name a Major League player, and I want you to tell me if they have more Major League plate appearances than that whole Blue Jays lineup had in Game 3. Ready?
Sounds good.
Okay. Randy Arozarena, does he have more career Major League plate appearances than 2192 than what the Blue Jays had in Game 3?
I want to say more, but again, I feel like that's a trick question because he came during the COVID bubble year. So
he did. You'd be correct. Randy Arozarena did have more. But remember, he burst on the scene of the playoffs, and he had all those playoff games too. What about Phillies third baseman Alec Bohm? More plate appearances than the whole Blue Jays lineup, or less?
More.
Yeah, he does, but it's close. It's only by like 3. It's right there. And then how about former Blue Jay and good friend Brett Laurie? Whose career came a little short after he left the Toronto Blue Jays and also dealt with injuries quite a bit. Did he have more Major League plate appearances than the whole Toronto Blue Jays lineup in Game 3?
I'm pretty sure it was more.
It was. They were all more. All of those players had more plate appearances than this one. The next one I was going to give you is Giants outfielder Mike Yastrzemski, who also had more to spoil the fun. So that's kind of the era of those players who have been Major League regulars but have not been around for a long time. All had more Major League plate appearances than the whole Blue Jays lineup. In fact, Carlos Santana, who we played against in this series, Blue Jays killer, who had a big RBI against us in this series, almost doubled in terms of plate appearances what the Blue Jays had in their career. So very, very wild. We wanted to see the kids play, and we sure did in this series. Jesse, do you have anything else on the Blue Jays hitters? Like George Springer going 0 for 4 in the series. Brian Serven went 0 for 3 in the series. Luis De Los Santos went 0 for 4 in his one start. Anything else before we start talking some pitching here?
No. All the fun was the kids, and we got to talk about them.
All right. Well, let's move from the batter's box onto the bump, and let's talk some starting pitching for the Toronto Blue Jays. And 3 games mean we got 3 starts from our starters. I'll read out their lines here, Jesse, and then I'll have your pick of who you want to talk about first. In Game 1, Kevin Gausman, 5 2/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 4 walks, which is a little high for Gausman with 4 strikeouts. Game 2, we got Jose Barrios in a revenge game. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. And then the finale, Yariel Rodriguez, only 3 innings pitched, gave up 3 hits, did escape without any runs though, but 2 walks and 3 strikeouts in the finale. You take one, I'll take the other, and then we'll combine on the third. Jesse, who do you want to talk about?
I'll talk about Jose Barrios since that was such a hot topic coming into the series of what happened in Game 2 of the wild card.
Right.
And I'm not gonna lie, I was like, watch this be the game that Schneider lets him pitch a complete game, even won't take the chance of throwing him out, pulling him after one of that debacle and all the media storm and fan anger from that wild card game. And I still feel like
that when he was dealing after 3 innings, it's like, you got to pull him, John Schneider. What are you doing? He looks too good. Get him out of there.
Oh, exactly. I was thinking, the Khakis are game at. It's past the 4th inning. Come on, get Tommy Nance in.
Right. It was going.
And I just was he was had a little bit of issues in the first and all that, and he definitely. It was he definitely was this is my revenge game. It's almost I'll use it in a basketball term, the flu game for Jordan, where it's I'm going to dominate you and make you own you and all that, which he was for his 6 innings. I was hoping they would let him go to the 7th to keep that streak going because, if I'm correct, it's the longest streak of pitching 7 innings in Blue Jays, I believe in Blue Jays history or something like that. And I was hoping that, but I definitely understand why they pulled him in like after 6, just with how those like the long first inning, the long second, like the long innings the Jays had up to bat. It's definitely makes it a little more difficult for pitchers, and like they're more rather keep him fresh with how many innings he's pitched and games he started. Like if he's starting tied up, just let him take him out. We have the bullpen or the blowpen. We're up by 11. Like I don't think they can blow this one, but again, it is the bullpen, so we'll talk about that later. So I wasn't too sure. I was like, oh God, is this going to be another Tiger Series type of game? You pull Barrios and then just meltdown.
Well, good news, that didn't happen. In fact, the bullpen combined to give up 1 hit in the rest of that game. But I agree. Look, I think if this game was a closer game, John Schneider lets Jose Barrios go another inning. Pre-game, because he was dealing with that little bit of a sickness, he said he only wanted 5 innings out of him, but he was just so damn pitch efficient, they decided to let him go 6. Maybe not a bad idea for a guy who's got a ton of innings under his belt anyway. He commanded his spin really well. And I don't know what it is with pitchers who get sick and then all of a sudden can just go out and throw a gem. It's weird. We see that all the time. Bassett, you remember at the start last season in New York when he wasn't feeling well and he just messed around and he threw a shutout. Like, this happens sometimes. And Jesse, I want to get your take on, what do you take by the Blue Jays just simply win the games Jose Barrios pitches? He now has 14 wins on the season. He's tied for the most in Major League Baseball. His 5 wins in the month of August led the month of August in terms of wins. And the Blue Jays are now 19-9 in games Jose Barrios starts this season. That is the most, tied for the most team wins out of any single pitcher who pitches. Do you have pitcher wins are what they are. They're not very predictive, but you'd rather have more pitcher wins than pitcher losses. So do you have a take on that, on why the Blue Jays just win games with Jose Barrios on the mound?
I feel like he's been probably the most consistent pitcher we've had all year, which is not saying a lot. And he is actually able to avoid those big blow up innings. Yes, he's had a couple this year, but compared to Bassett, where it's a regular basis, or even Gausman this year has happened more frequently. He's able to limit the damage and actually get out of some trouble spots quickly and be pitch efficient, where he's not using 40 pitches to get out the first inning. He's using maybe at a high 25, which then makes him able to go further in the games and give less opportunity for the bullpen to blow the game.
Yeah, and Barrios has been on a big run lately. You talked about it there. This is his 4th start of the season where he's allowed 0 earned runs. In fact, he's only had, I believe, 6 starts or more this year where he allowed 4 earned runs or more. The rest have been 3 or less. And I know you're a quality start guy, but that is how you get a quality start, and that's how you deliver for your team. I'm encouraged by Jose Barrios, and I can't believe I'm saying this after all this time, after I've kind of given him a lot of slander over the course of the years. But the ERA, down to 3.59 for Jose Barrios, right where we thought it would be at the start of the season. So good for him. All right. My starting pitcher I will talk about is, I want to touch on Yariel Rodriguez here, whose final line, 3 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. He battled his command early. He got a nice strike 3 call on a pitch outside and then gave up a weak infield single and all this stuff. But I thought the plan for Yariel Rodriguez was to boost him up a little bit, as he had thrown 75 or more pitches in 4 of the last 5 starts. But some of those starts have not went well, and he only threw, I believe, was 57 pitches in this start. John Schneider did say post-game how now they're trying to lower his innings limit a little bit here, which makes me weary, because if you want Yariel Rodriguez to be a full-go starter next year, which is something the Blue Jays have talked about, then don't you need to get his innings limits up this season so next year he can take an even bigger jump? Because right now he's only at about 67 or so innings pitched on the season. He'll get up to 80-ish before the end of the season, which means next year he's only going to go maybe 110, 120 at most. That's not a full starter's length workload. So therefore, I wonder, Jesse, by limiting Yariel Rodriguez's pitch count this season, do you think now it's more destined he ends up in the bullpen next season than being our number 5 starter?
I really think he's going to become more that Ross Stripling type, as much as we weren't thinking that was going to be suitable for him because of how Alan Francis pitched And also the emergence of possibly Jake Bloss or someone from the minors that could
Or
slot into
signing
that
somebody
five,
too.
or exactly, or signing Jack Flaherty or someone like that. One of those lower end stars, not a ace, but it'd be nice to get a true ace too. There's those possibilities for Uriel will be the swingman, Ross Stripling s type pitcher, where just the emergence of these Bell Francis, Bloss, or even side like you were saying, will has pushed him to that way and make him almost limit his innings because he's more suited probably for those swingmans, like a more younger version of Ryan Yarbrough.
Yeah, and this stuff is always his stuff has always been good, and it's always been command with Yariel Rodriguez. That would look pretty good into the bullpen if you can max out for an inning or two here. But the Blue Jays love their value. They probably stretched out pitchers too long into a fault. Looking at you, Nate Pearson, who tried to be a starter for way too long, and other situations. So we will, I guess, we can kind of pencil him into maybe that back end bullpen role. Jesse, did you have a quick thought on Kevin Gausman going in his start here? 4 walks, 4 strikeouts, but 5 2/3. The Blue Jays just didn't give him any runs, and he's historically struggled against Minnesota. This start was fine. I think if you look at his 27 starts or 28 starts he's made this year, this start was exactly 14th. So right in the average for Kevin Gausman. Do you have a thought on his performance here in Game 1?
I was just more happy it wasn't a typical start for him the last few years against Minnesota where they just owned him and just destroyed all his confidence or swagger if he was coming into any game, putting up 6 runs in the first inning like they did. I think it was last season or
well, they did at home too earlier this year.
Yeah, exactly. And they know I don't know how they know, but they really can sit on his splitter and know not to swing at it and wait for his weaker pitches, his off speed or his fastball. And it was nice to see only 2 runs.
Yeah,
but
gave his team a chance to win, right?
Exactly, and I was just going to say if only Pablo Lopez didn't find his groove like he was in the wild card series, of course, for us in Game 1. But that's the stories of being a Jays fan.
Yeah, I think Minnesota didn't have it on Kevin Gausman as much in this game is because Kevin Gausman has looked like a different pitcher over the course of this last little start. He's more pitch to contact. He's been throwing that slider a little bit more. He's been throwing his sinker a little bit more. And if Minnesota had something on his splitter, and you just don't throw the splitter as much, it makes a lot of sense how Minnesota, the edge they might have had against Kevin Gausman, kind of lost it a little bit going forward. So I think we can officially say we're done with the Minnesota Twins absolutely owning Kevin Gausman. All right, Jesse, let's talk bullpen. And I had this whole thing planned up about how, hey, is the Blue Jays bullpen actually kind of good? I went through and I dig through the stats, and over the past, since the start of the Angel series out on the West Coast, they had a 3.08 ERA. They were 3rd in all of Major League Baseball in WHIP during that time. And then in Game 3, which started out okay, Ryan Yarbrough, 7 up, 7 down. Tommy Nance and Zach Pop had 5 outs, walked 2, but didn't give up a hit. And then, like I said earlier in the episode, Chad Green could not have thrown a 2-strike pitch more middle than he threw in his life to Royce Lewis. And of course, we knew Royce Lewis was going to crush one over the course of this series. Chad Green got a blown save. It was the Blue Jays' first blown save. And oh God, I'd have to look this up. But it's been quite a while since the Blue Jays had a blown save. But for the rest of them, Tommy Nance, Eric Swanson, Ryan Burr, Zach Littell, and Pop, overall, pitched pretty well in this series. And there might be a making of an actual decent bullpen here. Jesse, give me your thoughts on this Toronto Blue Jays bullpen and where we stand going into the final month of the season.
It only can go up because how much I've ripped into it, how much I have despised it all season, and why I call it the bullpen. It's definitely been promising seeing it, and again, Jack Green had to show the bullpen's ugly head with that middle pitch to Royce Lewis. But definitely some promising signs and some pieces, and if we could even add a few pieces in the offseason that we'll talk about in later episodes for that bullpen, it could possibly get close to maybe what it was last year, or if not, in other years where it's been one of our more strong parts of our roster.
It could, and the Blue Jays are going to have to do a lot of work to overhaul that bullpen. We just signed Dylan Tate off waivers, the Baltimore Orioles, which we can touch on here in a minute. But I think here's the stat, Jesse, that'll define the Blue Jays bullpen as a whole. I've cited this quite a bit, a few times with Jordan Romano back in his Blue Jays career. Fangraphs has a stat where shutdowns versus meltdowns, which is exactly what you think it is. It's how many times the relievers come in and shut the door down versus how many times they have blown up. The Blue Jays have 105 shutdowns, which is 5th worst in baseball. And the teams below you are not teams you want to have below you, looking at you, Oakland and White Sox. The Blue Jays are in that territory. And in terms of meltdowns, the Blue Jays are 8th in baseball with 77 meltdowns, which is not the ratio you want to be. I think that goes on vibes with the way the Blue Jays bullpen has pitched this year. Also, the White Sox bullpen, terrible. But I think we knew that going in here into the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's probably part of the main reason the Blue Jays underperformed, to go along with injuries and, hey, by surprise, Justin Turner wasn't actually that good. But it's one of the main things you can underperform expectations, is having a bad bullpen out of nowhere. And the Blue Jays, for the most part, even though they've been good lately, have had a bad bullpen for the course of the year. So lots of work to be done in the offseason for this pack.
Oh, definitely. And I'll just say one name I would
Jesse,
love
do
to
you
see.
want to touch on? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's only one name I would love to see in this bullpen, and it would be a former Blue Jay prospect in Jeff Hoffman. I feel like he could be a big help in the back end with Green and Romano, when they're the three of them could be a three-headed monster.
Yeah, the Blue Jays are going to sign some sort of reliever, and it probably will be to a one-year deal, and it probably won't be for a ton of money. But the Jays will definitely look to do something like that. I'm wearing my Troy Tulowitzki jersey today, which I just got. I tweeted it out, and who Jeff Hoffman was notably traded for. So there's a nice little tie-in for all involved there. Jesse, I have 5 little rapid-fire questions here, and we don't need to spend much time on any of them, but just give me a quick instant reaction, and then we'll move on with them. Ready?
Sounds good.
All right, the first one is the simple. Who would you rather have? Dalton Varsho for what he's done this season, or what prime Kevin Pillar was for the Toronto Blue Jays? Give me your answer.
I would do Dalton Varsho, because even though Pillar's defense was the name Superman, he wasn't much of a power battle compared to Varsho, and that power will help makes him a little bit more valuable, especially in certain situations.
I think I'm with you, especially being a left-handed hitter as well, a little more versatile. Kevin Pillar was fantastic. He had some great years with the Toronto Blue Jays. I think I'm with you, though. Kevin Pillar was never hitting, I'd say never hit 17 home runs in a series. He did have a 20 home run season, did Kevin Pillar. So maybe we're cutting his power a little bit short here, but I think I would rather have Dalton Varsho as well. Jesse, my next one. Don Mattingly.
Sorry, I was going to say, if I'm correct, that was when we traded him to San Fran, and he was playing in a lot of NL parks, if I'm correct.
Yeah. He had no home runs with Toronto, and then hit 21 with the Giants in 2019. So, there's that. The next one here. Jesse, Don Mattingly left the team for a while as he was dealing with an injury or a sickness or whatever it was. And then the Blue Jays offense exploded. They scored a ton of runs. Well, Don Mattingly came back and joined the team, and the Blue Jays have had run totals of 3, 0, 2, 0, then 15, and then 3 in the finale. Do you make anything of this from Don Mattingly being back and all of a sudden the Blue Jays bats going cold?
Go away, Mattingly. We were having fun and scoring runs, and should have stayed away from the team after your shoulder surgery, and go join the White Sox. They're looking for a coach.
Sure. It's I know it's nothing. It's probably just small sample noise, but boy, the fact that those two correlate so heavily is bad for the storylines and bad for the vibes around the Toronto Blue Jays. And all right, Jesse, my last one here. I said I had 5. I lied. I only had 3. The Blue Jays, with their most recent run of success, have moved up the tankathon leaderboards. We've now moved ahead of Pittsburgh, ahead of Texas, ahead of Washington. We now have I think it's the 10th worst record in all of baseball, but it's now the 8th highest in the draft lottery because the White Sox and the Oakland A's cannot pick in the top 10 this year. We only now have a 2.45% chance at the first overall pick going into the next year. Do you have a thought on that, or should we really try to tank in this month of September to try to get that pick as low as possible?
Well, it is a lottery, so we could possibly get it, but I I don't want them to tank like more so obvious. Where like I want them to be competitive in that, but like if we lose, I'm not going to be upset because it
It's
is
not
what
about
it
wins
is.
and losses, right?
No, exactly. So I want our players to get like the development, get the at bats, so when they come into the spring training next year, and make the roster, they're not like deer in the headlights. Because like I've been saying too, it's how the difference between AAA and the majors is such a huge gap. So every game, every AB is actually crucial to get that more comfort level. And like as we're seeing with Barger, like struggled his first little bit. Now he's getting more regular bats, seeing more MLB pitcher. He's becoming what we saw in Buffalo and New Hampshire coming up through the system.
Right. And if the Blue Jays truly want to compete in 2025, like they've mentioned several times, this young core of Toronto Blue Jays team is going to go a long way in order to making that dream a reality. So I think you're right. Put them on the field, let them play. If you happen to win 16 games in the month of September again, how is that a bad thing, right? Teams winning games, that's what ultimately we want at the end of the day. So I am with you there. And hey, in terms of a lottery, all you need is a ticket, right? I work in the casino industry. You've worked in the casino industry in the past. All you need is a chip and a chair, is what they say. And then you have a chance for glory. And as long as the Blue Jays are at the dance, maybe they'll find a date.
Exactly, and not be a wallflower.
That's right. That's right. Although, go on a bit of a tangent there about Blue Jays and wallflowers and all that stuff. But maybe for another episode, we've got a whole off season full of content that we've got to film stuff here for. All right, Jesse, on the farm, looking down at the prospects left, Adam Macko has actually made a rehab assignment and is on his way back, who was probably one of the Blue Jays' best success pitching prospect stories at the first half of the season before he got hurt. He made his debut with Double-A Dunedin. He went 3 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and struck out 5 of the 9 batters he got out. That looked really good. And it didn't have much. Alan Roden keeps hitting. Stuart Baroa, who was just sent down to for Nathan Lucas to come up, hit a nice 3-run home run for the Buffalo Bisons in his game there. So very notable things. Jesse, you've been tagging us in a few videos. RJ Schreck has been nice. You mentioned Jay Harry earlier in this episode. Anything down on the farm that's caught your attention that we should bring up here?
Definitely that Charles McAdoo, like when he first joined, like came to New Hampshire, he went on a little close spell, but recently he's has found his swing again and started to light it up and starting to hit like the bombs again, and has been actually playing some solid defense from what I've been seeing, like some of the clips I've been seeing. Yeah, like again, like RJ Schreck and Jay Harry and all that have actually been being more productive with our organization than they were with Minnesota and Miami. So like maybe Jay Harry's not so bad after all, and like Shrek definitely could see possibly being in Buffalo next season, for sure, with how he's been playing.
The Blue Jays farm system just suddenly has guys in it. You know, I don't know if there's still that superstar talent there, but there's guys, and all you need is one to break out. So it's actually somewhat encouraging. Jesse, are we feeling optimistic about this team? What is this? This is a weird feeling I'm not used to feeling this time of year.
I don't know. It's like it's tingling, and it's like weird, like happiness and excitement. Like I haven't had this all season.
Man, we should do early morning pods more often. The coffee's coming in too. We're feeling good about this team, about the day. Man,
the sun is shining, and the sun is shining. We don't have to work, and like.
I might even go to the cottage this afternoon and meditate all in. It's going to be a great day. All right, before we get out of here, Jesse, Blue Jays are back home just for 2 quick games. We got a Looney Dog night and then a work from dome night down at Rogers Center. 2 games against Bryce Harper and the Philadelphia Phillies. What do you want to see from this team in this little 2-game set?
I would love if we split it. Great. If we lose both, also great for that lottery pick. But like, I just want to see them be competitive and just not get embarrassed. Like, I don't want to have a game like we gave Minnesota. That's all So if no position players are pitching, it's a success.
Chris Bassett will take the mound tomorrow night against Tyler Phillips, and Bowden Francis. We'll see if he can continue his nice run against Christopher Sanchez of the Phillies. So we avoid, the Aaron Nolas. We avoid the Zach Wheelers for the Philadelphia Phillies. So we really do have a chance. Philly, who's well in a playoff position, and the Blue Jays want to show, hey, we've been on a little bit of a run lately. Let's go up and let's show we can do something to get these guys. Let's win one of these 2 games. against them. And let's see. I really want to see Bowden Francis just continue his domination. It's been the best story on the Blue Jays so far, and I'd love to see him keep that going.
Oh, definitely. Maybe he'll actually, I'll call it now, maybe a complete game shutout for game 2.
I'd say that's insane, but man, with the run Bowden Francis has been on, maybe not, my guy. Maybe not. Maybe he is just that good. Either way, we will touch on it after the Phillies series. Maybe we'll have some more people on here with us. We will get to it. Hopefully get Riley McConnell back at some point here as he's dealing through some of his own personal life issues here as well. But Jesse, anything else you want to add before we get out of here and call our episode today?
No. Let's get this Labor Day Monday. Enjoy the last day of summer, and everyone have a great day. And remember, if you're having a few drinks, make sure you have a way home.
That's absolutely, yep. Absolutely. All right. Remember, for Jesse Turiso, I am Jesse Burrell. We are live. We will be back live to talk about the Phillies series. You can find us on any podcast platforms. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, anywhere you can find your podcast. You can find our show. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Follow us on YouTube and leave a 5-star review anywhere possible. It really is the best way to help the show grow. Thank you once again for Jesse Turiso. I'm Jesse Burrell. Let's go Blue Jays. We will see you after the Phillies series.
Thanks, guys.